Hello, hi guys, welcome back to my channel Xplosive. And today's video will be on the topic Bitcoin peer-to-peer networking. In our last few videos, we have discussed about Bitcoin, what Bitcoin is, what cryptocurrencies is, and in our last video we have discussed about the pillars of Bitcoin basically. There are four pillars of Bitcoin, which were basically number one was the peer-to-peer networking. Another thing was the cryptography that is used behind Bitcoin, which that brings in the trust basically, because in Bitcoin, as you are all aware, there is no central authority involved. All the trust that we are having in Bitcoin is due to the cryptography that is used and the idea of Satoshi Nakamoto, who invented Bitcoin. Another thing that which will come in as the pillars of Bitcoin will be the data structure which are used. So basically there are two data structure which are used. One is related to the cryptography that is used, which is basically the Merkle tree, which is used for storing the data. Basically what Merkle tree is, that we will discuss in our future video, but just to give you an idea what Merkle tree basically means is that, let's say in a block there are multiple transactions present. So what Merkle tree is that it will have the tree structure of all the transactions which are there, starting from the zero transaction till the latest transaction which are added to the blocks. Merkle tree will be having all the details of that transaction. So we will discuss our Merkle tree in detail in the next few videos, but let's move forward. Another data structure that is very important, which is the blockchain itself, which was invented by Satoshi Nakamoto. So blockchain, as I have told you before as well, it is itself a data structure. The thing is that blockchain contains the list of all the transactions which are going there in the Bitcoin network. So all the transactions which are confirmed will be present in the blockchain. Basically blockchain is a database of the transactions which are taking place in the Bitcoin network. And the last thing which we can call it as the pillar of Bitcoin blockchain will be the proof of work algorithm. So proof of work is the consensus algorithm which is used in the Bitcoin. Consensus algorithm, just to give you a brief what consensus algorithm is, let's say as you are all aware that in Bitcoin anybody is free to join the network. Anybody can join the network any point of time. Let's say a few people are joined the network, and all of them need to be agreed to a particular block before that block needs to be added to the blockchain. Okay, how will all these people will agree to that block is something that is decided by the consensus, and the consensus which Bitcoin uses is the proof of work. There are different consensus algorithms present. For example, in Ethereum we use proof of stake. We will discuss about consensus algorithm in detail in our upcoming videos, but in today's video we will focus mainly on the peer-to-peer networking which is used in Bitcoin. Before going into the details of peer-to-peer networking, let's see how this whole peer-to-peer networking came into picture, or what were the roots of the peer-to-peer networking. Let's go a little bit back in the history. The time of when internet came into picture, around 90s, internet was booming, but this internet technology was new to everyone. Everybody started exploring internet and starting identifying ways how they can use internet. So it was a time when www, World Wide Web came into picture, and also a lot of online companies also started, and so one of the company was Amazon as well. So Amazon at that time only sells the books at that time. Now it is the world's largest online store, but at the time they started with the online selling of the books. So a lot of people were there who were exploring how they can use internet in an innovative way. One of the application that was there was the sharing of the files using internet. That was a pretty new concept, and everybody was trying to understand how they can use or leverage internet for sharing files between them. And the basic requirement was that somebody was having some file and another one was having some other file, and they wanted to exchange these files. So this was the driving force. And at that time, around 90s we are talking about, at that time this was the application that a lot of people started thinking how they can achieve this for the file sharing thing. At that time a company came into picture which was known as Napster. I think so, you have already heard of the company Napster because it was shown in a movie. So what Napster did is it was basically a song sharing platform. They said that we will provide you a server, and let's say there are multiple people present and multiple nodes that we can say our network is there, and there are A node, B node, C node, D node, E node, and multiple nodes are there. Let's say A is having a song 1 and let's say B is having song 2. Similarly some other nodes are having some other songs. So what basically they can do is that they can go to that server, Napster server, and they can say that hey, I am having this song. So what server will do is that server will mention the song name along with the IP address of the node which is having the song. So let's say A goes and says that I have song 1. Let's say there is some song 1. So A said I am having a song 1. So in the server there the information will populate like song 1. Let's say C is having song 2. So in the server when C goes to server, he will mention that I am having song 2. So its information will also populate like song 2 and IP address of C. So in similar way, anyone who is having some song can go to that server and share the details of the song which they are having. Now let's say there is some user E and he wanted a song, let's say song 1 he wanted. Okay, how he can get it? What he can go do is that he can go to the Napster server and he can see he can search for the song 1. Okay? Now he will see who is having song 1. Okay? Let's say A is having song 1, so he will directly reach out to A and he will exchange the song with him. He will get the song from A. In this way Napster work, but as you can see there is a problem over here. All the content which is present on the server is copyrighted content because songs are basically copyrighted. Napster has to face it, got into multiple court cases. So big companies like Hollywood Music and other music companies sued Napster because problem the companies face is that nobody was buying music from them and everybody was going to the Napster and they were downloading music from free. This incurred huge losses to these big companies, and due to which they sue Napster and Napster has to close. Now, as you can already see that the main idea of Satoshi Nakamoto, I am going a little back and I just wanted to highlight that the main idea was of Satoshi Nakamoto to use peer-to-peer networking was to remove the centralization that was there previously in the digital transaction. So we were having banks which was a single point of failure. What Nakamoto think is that in the cryptocurrency Bitcoin, he wanted to remove that central authority. That's why he introduced peer-to-peer networking. And we will now in this example of Napster, we will see why single point of failure is so much problematic or single central authority is so much problematic. So Napster has to shut down because they were selling copyrighted content and all. And the main weak point of Napster was that there was a single centralized server over which everyone was going and they were entering their details and mentioning what song they were having. So a single centralized server, it was easy to bring down Napster because it was a single server. If this information was present decentralized, it will be very difficult to bring down Napster. Even though they were doing something unethical or they were selling some copyrighted content, that is not a part of it. But if they were using some decentralized thing like peer-to-peer network over where there is no central authority or no single point of contact, then it would be very difficult to shut down Napster. Okay, so as Napster you can consider as the generation 1 of the peer-to-peer networking, or you can consider it as a precursor of a peer-to-peer network. As the time passes, a lot of progress was done in the peer-to-peer networking and something called as Gnutella came to a picture. So Gnutella was some different company. What idea they come up with this was completely different. So just to give you a brief on what Gnutella did is that, let's say we were having an existing network of 4 nodes, let's say A, B, C, D nodes are there, and let's say there is some other node, let's say E, who wanted to join this network of Gnutella. Okay, so what E has to do is that E needs to have some, what we can say is the seed information. Seed information basically means that some kind of information E needs to join the network. Let's say it can be information of some of the node which is already a part of the existing network. Let's say E has some information of D which is part of the existing network. So then what E can do is that E can communicate with D and he can form a network with D using the TCP protocol. So in this way E can connect to the existing network of Gnutella. Now once E is connected to the network, what D can do is that, so D was the point of contact of E. So what D can do is that D can share the details of the other PS which he is connected to. Let's say D is connected to B and C, so he can share the details of B and C to E. Okay, now what E will do is that he can also connect, if he wanted it, to E and C also. In this way whole network will be created. Now the thing is that how file sharing will work in Gnutella. Basically Gnutella was also a file sharing platform. So how the file sharing will work in Gnutella is little different than what we have studied or what we have seen in Napster. Okay, let's say A is having a song 1 and B is there. We wanted the song 1. The way in which B will search for the song will will be in expanding ring. Expanding basically means that, so let's say B is there. B will first request to his neighbors that are they having song 1. Okay? Let's say B's neighbors are E and F. Okay, he can try with E and F and check that are you having the song 1. Now if E and F are not having song 1, then B can move on to its second hop peers. Okay, second hop peers basically means is that the peers next to the E. So let's say E's peer he can go to. Similarly, he can go to next peers until and unless he gets the song he wanted. Let's say in the second hop cycle, he was able to find song from A. Maybe A is in contact with E. From B, A will be a second hop neighbor. Okay, this way we can get the song 1 from A. In this way, this whole network works. Okay, in the form of expanding ring. So B will search with his neighbors. If he is not having with his neighbors, then he will go to second hop neighbors, third hop neighbors, and so on. The thing is that the brute force way of doing this maybe can be that he requests that he wants someone in the whole broadcast network. But the issue is that will be that can be something more than that we require, because let's say if we broadcast the request to everybody, millions of nodes there, and then this whole broadcast network will be flooded with request. Everyone will be wanting some songs. Everybody will be wanting some other information. So this whole broadcast network will be flooded with the request. So what solution Gnutella come up with this expanding ring algorithm. Now one very interesting point in Gnutella was that there is no centralized server. The whole information which is present of the song is completely decentralized. Okay, because there is no center point of authority or single server which is present, which is having the information of all the songs which are there between all the nodes. So this was the main advantage of this Gnutella, the platform. So as compared to Napster, it will be very difficult to bring down Gnutella. This was basically the generation 2 of the peer-to-peer networking. So let's move forward. So as the time passes by, the peer-to-peer network started becoming more and more efficient, and more advanced peer-to-peer networks came into picture. For example, one of the example is DHT. Full form of DHT is distributed hash table. So we will not go into the details of how DHT works, but we can say that DHT is pretty much faster than the Gnutella or the Napster. Okay, because the way that DHT uses is pretty different. What DHT do is that, so if let's say there is an existing network and let's say A is having a song 1 and B wants that song, so what B will do is that in order to find the information using DHT, distributed hash table, he will not do like expanding ring things with that we are doing in Gnutella. So B wants the information very quickly, much faster than the Gnutella. That is the main application of DHT. It is very faster than the normal expanding ring algorithm, or another thing that we have seen is that the centralized server or something. The thing is that this DHT is much faster. If I try to explain how fast it was, is that to find song it will only take log n time. So if there are n nodes in the network, using DHT we will be able to find the song he wanted in log n time. That is very faster, and that is what the advantage of DHT is. So now DHT is very much used till now as well. So everybody has heard of the name of the BitTorrent. So it also uses some sort of DHT only, distributed hash table, but of course it is using a pretty much advanced version of it. Let's say B is wanting some file. So what BitTorrent will do is that, let's say using DHT we will be able to find the file, but what BitTorrent do is that let's say A is having song 1 and also D is also having the song 1. So what BitTorrent will do is that it will start downloading the song from both the channels, basically from A as well as from the D. So start downloading the song simultaneously from different nodes, so that the speed can be increased. That is the application of DHT. So this was the history of peer-to-peer networking. Okay, now let's move to the peer-to-peer networking that Bitcoin uses. So it was the time around 2008 when Satoshi Nakamoto came into the scene, and it was much later than this whole peer-to-peer networking journey. So Satoshi well versed with all this information of how peer-to-peer networking works. But the thing is that even though Satoshi Nakamoto came much after this peer-to-peer networking, he was having the informations about the history of peer-to-peer networking very well, because he published the white paper of Bitcoin in the year 2008 in the month of October, and soon after around January 2009 he come up with the implementation of Bitcoin. So we can say is that he was working on this Bitcoin for a long period of time. And also one thing to highlight is that code which was used in the Bitcoin implementation was very clear. So a lot of people think that the Satoshi Nakamoto was not a single person, but he was some of the group of person, because the reason why a lot of people doubt this is because the code implementation was very clear. If a single person was doing that, it is non-trivial, and he must be a genius if he has done it all alone. No? Let's not discuss about who Satoshi Nakamoto is, but let's move to the peer-to-peer algorithm that Satoshi has tried to use in Bitcoin. Okay, so the algorithm that he has tried to use looks very similar that we have studied before. So there are different nodes present. There is a node A, there is a node B, there is a node C, and there is node D. There are different nodes, and they are forming a peer-to-peer network. Okay, so let's say there is some other node E who wanted to join the Bitcoin network. What he can do is that he needs to have some information. Basically, what kind of information? He needs to have information of one of the peers, which is the already existing part of the Bitcoin network. Let's say he is having the information of D. So what he can do is that he can connect to D. One very special thing of a Bitcoin network is that anybody in any part of the world can join the Bitcoin network completely freely. Another thing is that anybody can leave the network at any point of time. This type of blockchain implementation is called as the permissionless blockchain. Okay, let's say E joins with D. Now what D will do is that D will share the information of all the peers to whom he is connected to. Okay, let's say D is connected to, let's say, A and C. So now what he will do is that he will also try to connect to basically A and C. In this way, every node will share the information of all other nodes which is they are connected to its peers. Now one differentiating factor of this blockchain peer-to-peer network or Bitcoin peer-to-peer network and the network that we have seen in Gnutella was that Gnutella or the Napster was used for the file sharing, but in Bitcoin the main motive of this peer-to-peer network is not the file sharing. Okay, so in that case we don't want any single person of having all the files. In the case of Gnutella, what we didn't want is that there should be no single point of contact. Only one single person should not have all the songs or all the files present with him, because different people were having different information. So we have to do something like the expanding ring or DHT to find that song. But in the case of peer-to-peer network which is present in blockchain or Bitcoin, what we want is that everybody in the network should have all the information. The transactions which are generated in the blockchain network should be available to everyone present in this network. Let's say A comes to know about the transaction which has happened. A will tell this transaction to all its peers. Let's say E and D are the peers of A. So he will inform that I have heard about this transaction. You can also note in your database. So in this way, every node will share the information of all the transactions that they are hearing. So in this way, all the nodes which are there in the blockchain network or the Bitcoin network will have the information of all the transactions which are taking place. Basically, all of them will be having the same copy of the information. So this is the basic difference of our peer-to-peer network and the peer-to-peer network which is used in blockchain. So basically, the peer-to-peer network which we are using in blockchain is much more simpler. We don't want any algorithm like a complicated algorithm like DHT or what we have studied about expanding ring algorithm. We don't need any algorithm like that. We just want that every peer should share the information that they are getting to everybody else. In this way, Bitcoin peer-to-peer network works. Okay, so till now we have studied about the first pillar of Bitcoin, which was the peer-to-peer network, and I think so by this video you are completely clear about how peer-to-peer networking works in Bitcoin. Just to summarize all the things that we have discussed today, so we have discussed about the history of Peer-to-peer networking, we have just studied about generation 1 of peer-to-peer networking, that was Napster. Then we have studied about the generation 2 of, and then we have studied about the generation 3 of, where we can say which was the DHT, distributed hash tables, we have studied about, and at the last we have discussed about the peer-to-peer network which is used in the Bitcoin network or Bitcoin blockchain. The differentiating factor between the three examples that we have seen of peer-to-peer network and the Bitcoin network or peer-to-peer network is that in Bitcoin peer-to-peer network we don't need any complex algorithm like DHT or expanding ring algorithm to get the information. It is a very simple application of peer-to-peer networking, over where everybody who is there in the network should be completely transparent, and they should share all the information which they are getting from its peer to all the which he is connected to. So this is the basic Bitcoin peer-to-peer network which is used. This is the first pillar of Bitcoin, and in the future lectures we will study about the other three pillars of Bitcoin, which is basically cryptography. Another thing is our proof of work algorithm. Another thing is data structure which are used in Bitcoin. So thank you. Have a nice day, and thank you for watching this video, and we will meet in our next lecture.